Welcome to KPBS 10 News and SDSU School of Public Affairs mayoral debate for this special election. I'm Peggy Pico with KPBS.
And I'm Virginia Shaw with 10 News. So just how lively will this debate be? Well, the candidates will have a chance to challenge one another and answer your questions about issues important to San Diego.
10 candidates qualified for the ballot, and in an effort to conduct a discussion that allows for time to delve deep into the issues, we've limited participation to the top 4 candidates, according to an independent poll.
Now, they are San Diego City Councilman David Alvarez, former San Diego City Attorney Micah Geary, former State Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher, and San Diego City Councilman Kevin Faulconer.
We begin with opening statements. Each candidate has 1 minute. The order was determined by a random draw. Councilman David Alvarez is first. Your time begins now.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be back on my campus, San Diego State University. I'm a native San Diegan, was born and raised here. My parents came in the 70s. They were immigrants to this country. My mom was a fast food worker. My dad was a janitor. And we had a tough time growing up. It was a hardworking family that wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to be successful. And in this wonderful city of ours, I've had that opportunity. I was the first one in my family to graduate from high school and go on to college. And a couple years ago, I decided to take on a challenge that had not been taken on by anybody in my family. I decided to run for city council. And I won. I was elected with a supermajority of voters. And I've shown over my course on the council that we can get things done for this city that I love so much, that I grew up in, and I want to make sure is a better place for my family to live in. I have a daughter and a wife. We're raising our family here in San Diego because we love this city. We want to make sure that it's better for everyone, whether it's eliminating our budget shortfalls and making sure that we give back into our community through the services in the neighborhood. Those are my priorities, and I'm glad to be here today.
All right, thank you, David Alvarez. Micah Geary, you're next. Your time begins now.
This election is about more than money and power. Morally, it matters who wins, because this year, city officials spent more money on 17,000 pensions than they spent on fire protection for 1.2 million people here in San Diego. While they were spending so much money on pensions that they exceeded the IRS limits, 50% of our roads were in poor condition or worse. Upon the education of the people of San Diego rests the fate of our city. Their ability to understand these facts is critical to our survival. As the 36th mayor of San Diego, we will issue unemployment bonds that will pay our workers to repair our streets and repair our sidewalks. We will get our libraries and our rec centers open. And as the mayor of San Diego, I will be committed always to serve the greatest good for the greatest number of San Diegans. Thank you for letting me participate.
Thank you. And Nathan, you're next.
Thank you for having us. I want to thank all the students who are here. The future of our city really is built upon our youth, and to see you actively engaged in politics and following the race is really encouraging. You know, I want to be your mayor for 2 reasons. I want to be the mayor that rebuilds a city, that invests in our neighborhood, that makes sure our communities are safe, make sure that our streets are smooth. And the second thing I want to do is be the mayor that gets us moving forward with good-paying jobs. We put out a jobs plan to create 130,000 good-paying jobs by 2020, and I'll be held accountable for that. But that requires a mayor that knows how to get things done. I showed that in the State Assembly where we passed Chelsea's Law. And it requires a mayor who knows hard work. I've worked hard my whole life. I grew up in a working-class family. I was a janitor early in the morning before school and high school. I was the first in my family to go to college on a scholarship. I drove forklifts all the way through. I served in the Marines. I answered my country's call for service after September 11th and deployed and fought in a war. I served in the state legislature, and in the last year in Qualcomm, I've put all of that to work. I'm ready to be your mayor. I'm excited to be here to talk about the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kevin Faulconer, you have 1 minute.
I believe San Diego's best days are ahead because we've turned our city around before. I was elected 7 years ago after the last mayoral resignation left our city reeling. And I've worked every day since then to restore our city's finances and our credibility. I was proud to be part of the bipartisan effort that led to the resignation of Bob Filner. We had made so much progress, but in many ways, Bob Filner halted that progress and reversed it. I'm running for mayor to finish the job. I have the experience of bringing people together, and I have the leadership that's ready to go on day one. And most importantly, you can trust me to continue to move forward on the reforms that we've all worked so hard together to make sure that those tax dollars are reinvested into our neighborhoods, particularly our underserved neighborhoods, so we can fix our streets, our sidewalks, put more police officers on the street. That's why I'm running for mayor. I'm looking forward to an honest conversation about our city's future, and more importantly, the path on how we get there. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our first question is submitted by SDSU student Jacqueline Castillo. Her question: what is San Diego's biggest problem, and can you offer a solution? That question goes to Mike Aguirre. You have 1 minute.
San Diego's biggest problem is the structural deficit that we have that impinges on all other opportunities. One of the things we learn in economics is when you spend money on one thing, like $8 billion on pensions, the opportunity cost is you don't have it available to spend on roads, libraries, rec centers, all the other essential services that the city should be providing. The biggest problem we have is that the public doesn't understand the nature of the pension problem. It was a $5.9 billion problem in 2005. It is now an $8 billion problem. We used to spend $161 in 05. Now it's $275. And what's happened is our politicians have put us asleep. They've passed out the tranquilizers, they've passed out the pablum, and they've put us to sleep. And now the problem has crept back up, and we need to have a public that fully understands that and holds all the candidates accountable for answers that will actually work and move our city forward.
And Nathan Fletcher, same question. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge facing our city is that we're not doing the basic things that residents should expect. We aren't putting police officers on the street at the level we need to make sure people are safe. We aren't investing in the basic things that people need. Our roads have gone from the 8th worst to the 4th worst in the last 5 years. And there aren't those economic opportunities. There is no economic development strategy or jobs plan for how we get San Diegans back to work in those good-paying middle-class jobs. I've laid out plans for how we're going to tackle all of those, bringing a fresh start and a focus on getting things done, and we're ready to go.
Faulconer, the question again: what's San Diego's biggest problem, and offer a solution? You have 30 seconds.
Twofold in 30 seconds. The biggest challenge facing City Hall is to have trust and to restore integrity to our city government, and to have a mayor that's going to stand up and make sure we continue the reforms that we've started so we can reinvest those dollars back into our neighborhood. Because the biggest challenge that is facing our neighborhoods is our streets. Moving forward on street repair, sidewalk repair, making sure that we have more police officers on our street. I'm proud of the police officer recruitment and retention plan that I rolled out last week that has gained strong support from throughout this city. I'm going to ensure that we make the tough decisions to continue reform, to invest those dollars into our neighborhoods.
All right. And David Alvarez, same question, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think what's missing at City Hall is real leadership and courageous leadership. To say no when it's time to say no, like I did when we were giving away taxpayer money for big downtown projects. That's what the city has been about. It's not been about neighborhoods, and that's why our neighborhoods are falling apart the way they are. We're moving forward. We made some cuts that were smart to ensure that we are investing in our neighborhoods more than ever before. But this city has not had that type of leadership. That's what I've brought, and that's the experience that I have.
All right, and back to you, Mike Aguirre. You have 30 seconds to rebut anything that your fellow candidates have said, if you would like.
It's true that the downtown interests have received benefits, but they pale in comparison to the pension. For example, in 2007, we spent $18.3 million on roads and $162 on pension. In 2008, we spent $23.9 on roads, $137 million on pensions. In 2012, we spent $59 million on roads and $231 on pensions. The pension problem has us in a stranglehold. And until we get everyone back to the table to
Right, it's time. You kind of right there, leaving us dangling. Now, we are going to move on. Thank you. One of Bob Filner's biggest priorities was to empower neighborhoods. My question's to you. Do you agree with this approach? And if not, what is your plan? We begin with Nathan Fletcher. You have 1 minute.
I want to give Mike credit. When that light goes red, he's like a tweet. He runs out of characters and he's done. No, I think that was the right conversation. And I think it's a conversation we need to have with all San Diegans who have been left behind. Our city hasn't struggled for lack of finding money to do lots of things except invest in neighborhoods. Your streets have gotten worse. Your response times have gone up. And I think that it is time that we actually demonstrate a real commitment and a real focus to doing the basic things that people want. Having a mayor that's going to show leadership, is going to bring people together, and is going to invest in all of our neighborhoods throughout San Diego.
Kevin Faulconer, your 30-second response.
Yeah, one of the biggest travesties of the Faulconer administration was he skipped putting money back into our neighborhoods. The plan that we had worked so hard from after our city got out of the financial crisis, we made so much headway. We put out a 5-year plan that says we're going to invest those back into our neighborhood. And Bob Faulconer skipped our infrastructure plan for this year. And because of that, we're not doing 80 miles of streets in our neighborhoods from every neighborhood up and down the city of San Diego. I'm going to get us back on track. I have the experience that knows we cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. We've worked so hard. And so when I'm mayor, I'm going to ensure that neighborhood services are our priority because we will have the dollars to reinvest in those neighborhoods.
All right, and David Alvarez, same question, 30 seconds, your plan to empower neighborhoods.
I think what people don't understand is that what neighborhoods are talking about is empowerment, not just in the money that gets put in there from City Hall, the money that has not been put there. In fact, what we've seen is like the midnight deal that Assemblymember Fletcher put through the Assembly to ensure that more money went to downtown special projects. That's the type of leadership we do not need. And what we mean by neighborhood empowerment means that we make sure that they have a voice in the process. That's the part that's missing. And how do we get back into the communities to give them a chance to be successful with resources?
All right, and that's time. Micah Geary, your 30-second response.
When I say neighborhoods, I mean the rec centers, the libraries, the roads, the sidewalks. We spent $216 million on libraries, roads, and rec centers this year. We spent $275 million on pension, $60 million more for pension. And that is the problem. When people say that they're going to do something about the neighborhoods or that they don't want to spend money on the neighborhoods, you have to spend money on the neighborhoods. You have to keep up your roads. You have to keep the rec centers open. You have to keep the libraries open in order to deliver.
To deliver right on time.
Deliver.
Nathan
Deliver.
Fletcher, back to you with your 30 seconds to rebut anything from your other candidates.
That was very good. Again, Mike, so if you want a candidate who's about pensions, vote for Mike, because he's going to work it in every answer. If you want someone who's about neighborhoods and who's about good jobs, then vote for me, because the status quo is failing. It's not demonstrating the commitment to neighborhoods. It doesn't have a plan to get you back to work. I have both, and I'm ready to lead, and I'd be honored for your vote.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. California was just ranked by a nonprofit tax foundation as the 3rd worst in the nation for its business tax climate. Ernesto Vidal joins us now with a question from the audience, and he wants to ask you about jobs.
What would you do as mayor to create more jobs?
Kevin Faulconer, that question is for you. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. First and foremost, we're going to protect the jobs we have here in the city of San Diego. I've been out front and vocal on standing up, particularly these last several weeks, for our ship repair industry and the jobs that those jobs mean at the Port of San Diego. So incredibly important. We stood up as we had to protect our tourism industry, one of the most important things, good paying jobs for San Diegans, and it's a competitive advantage for the city of San Diego that allows us to have that revenue that we can spend in our neighborhoods and to spend in our services. Without those revenue, we don't have the dollars to do what's very important for all of us. But also, we need to be forward thinking as well. We have to bring new ideas and energy. I've been proud to support new technology incubators in my own council district with some seed money from my council office. New exciting technology industries started by local San Diegans, that we can grow that to provide good paying jobs for San Diegans. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to make sure that we have opportunities for our hardworking families and for all of us and for students who, when you graduate, you're going to have a job to stay here in San Diego.
Thank you. And David Alvarez, same question, 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you, Ernesto, for the question. I think first and foremost, we've got to make sure that we actually invest in the neighborhoods to create those jobs. There's a piece that I wrote that was published by the paper. It talks about grassroots economics. Grassroots economics is when we actually start to build our neighborhoods to create good neighborhoods that includes good paying jobs, something that we haven't done in this city. We haven't invested in that way so that people who can live and work and play, as we call it, within their own confines of their neighborhood so that they can enjoy San Diego. That's the way we're going to attract more employers so they want to come here and bring their companies here.
All right, that's time. And Mike Geary, what do you like to do as mayor? What would you do to create more jobs?
Well, what I mentioned before is an idea that a former mayor, Austin, had in 1931, a Republican mayor, in which we issued unemployment bonds in order to rebuild the city. That's what I want to do. I think it's a level-headed idea. It's something that will produce real jobs and will put people to work to help rebuild our city. The reason also that I am in favor of project labor agreements, I'm in favor of minimum wage, prevailing wage, collective bargaining, because we have to get purchasing power into the hands of the middle class of the city of San Diego. And I had so much more to say.
So much more to say. We'll come back to you. Now, I do have to. So, Nathan Fletcher, you have 30 seconds. What you would do as mayor to create more jobs?
Yeah, we've seen over the course of the recession the erosion of the middle class, and my jobs plan is specific. We have a plan to create 130,000 new jobs by 2020 by rebranding us the world's most innovative city, launching an entire campaign about the creative and innovative economies. But we also want to invest in manufacturing. Over 500,000 manufacturing jobs have come back to America, and we want those jobs to come back here. Those are good jobs with good wages. You can buy a home, you have health care, you can put your kids in college. So we want to invent the idea, we want to make the product manufacturing, and then we want to sell it to the rest of the world. Through our export plan.
That is time. Kevin Faulconer, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal to what the other candidates have said.
We have to do at the city is do a better job of creating the bureaucracy. So when our small companies and our small businesses are starting, they know that when you interact with the city of San Diego, you're going to have a surety of process. There's going to be clear rules of the road. We don't have that right now in the city of San Diego. And time is money, particularly for our startup businesses. Having been on the council for a number of years and chairing the city's audit committee, I'm going to make it a priority to ensure that we are changing the way we do business, to bring those performance standards so we can be successful.
Thank you. Now, many people were excited by Bob Filner's promise of transparency at City Hall. The question to you, starting with David Alvarez, is what will you do as mayor to ensure that your office has an open government policy? You have 1 minute.
Well, you know, we actually, unfortunately, did not have real transparency, even though that was a commitment. We've seen a lot of things that were getting done that weren't actually open to the public. And so I have the proud support of Donna Fry, who was, during the very darkest moments of City Hall over the last decade, has been the only light, making sure that people actually have access to government. So transparency goes beyond making sure that Public Records Act requests get responded to from the public. It also makes sure that we are responding to the needs of the public and making sure that we are going out to the public. One thing that I've done, which is what I'll continue to do, is I make sure that people have access to me. I have office hours every month. Since I started in office 3 years ago, people come and talk to me, they present their problems, we work through them, we get things done. That's the type of leadership we need when it comes to open and transparent government in the city. And again, I'm proud to have Donna Fry's endorsement to do that.
All right, thank you. Mike Aguirre, your response?
Yes, early in my term as city attorney, the media actually gave me an award. They didn't give me too many towards the end, but they gave me an award because they called it the Light Award because of the work that I did to open up city government. I opened up the closed sessions and released those relating to the pension. I wrote a legal opinion that made the council members and the mayor turn over their calendars. I believe that all of the messaging that goes on during the course of city council meetings should be made public. I will be the most transparent mayor that we've ever had in the history of the city, and I have a record.
All right, we will talk about that record later.
I want to see who's holding that 30 seconds.
Nathan Fletcher.
Mike, you get my award for most interesting.
Exactly.
You always get my award for most interesting.
I'm ready to accept your endorsement if you want.
You know, if I'm the mayor, you're not going to need a lobbyist to get a meeting at City Hall. I'm going to also have regular office hours like I did when I was in the Assembly. I went out into every neighborhood, and I did town halls, and I think folks expect that out of it. You know, there's something different about a mayor. It's personal. It's someone you want to be able to ask questions and see, and so I've committed to going into the neighborhoods to do that, along with continuing the tradition of Saturday office hours on the weekends, because regular San Diegans need to know that if they have a question or an issue, they can find their mayor and get an answer.
All right, and Kevin Faulconer, 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's something that David and I have been working very closely on is to make sure that the data is online, searchable on the city's website. So any San Diegan wants information, and it's not just about, obviously, members of the media and reporters who deserve it, but also your average San Diegan. So we're making a real push to make our government more open and transparent. But it also comes down to the individual. And as mayor, you have to be open with people and say what's on your mind. And when I'm mayor, as you know, based upon my time on the council, you'll know where I stand on issues. And that is
your time. Thank you, David Alvarez. You have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you. And I think politicians like to make promises. And I'm not about promises. I'm about actions and the things that I've actually done. So I've hosted office hours. I've allowed people to come and meet with me every month to make sure that we address their problems. My staff actually walks door to door. Anybody who lives in my council district has experienced that, to see what the problems are in that neighborhood to make sure we address them. We need someone who's proactive, who's actually done that, not someone who's just going to make pledges and promises and probably will not fulfill them.
All right, and according to a recent study, San Diego's roads are the fourth worst in the nation, and drivers here pay about $750 in additional operating cost each year because of the bad roads. And it's not uncommon, of course, to drive on flooded city streets after a water main breaks. What is your plan to repair San Diego's crumbling infrastructure, and why are you better suited to get the job done than the other candidates? Mike Aguirre, we start with you.
Well, first, I recognize under Charter Section 26.1 that the mayor has the same obligation to maintain the roads as to maintain the pension. That's the biggest difference. And what that means is that we are going to pay the $160 million, not by borrowing it over 40 years, but we're going to pay the $160 million we need each year to maintain the roads so they don't get any worse. That's the minimum amount that we have to pay. We then can borrow, and what I'm suggesting by using the unemployment bonds, we then can borrow to actually rebuild our roads, not repair the roads, but rebuild the roads. That's what you use borrowed money for. You don't maintain your ongoing costs by borrowing money. That's like charging your groceries on your credit card. You pay as you go. Long term, you can put it on a bond. That's the biggest difference between myself and the others. Well, not so much the others here, but I think Kevin may have a different point of view about that. But that's why, and also I have the record.
Okay, thank you. That is time.
God, I can't get those.
We're really not cutting them. Nathan Fletcher, your plan for fixing crumbling infrastructure in the city.
Mike keeps running out of time, but he gets pensioned in on every answer. Look, we've got to go. I've pledged as mayor. The first thing we're going to do when I take office, the first 6 months I'm going to spend is going to be going to every neighborhood, hopefully working with Councilmember Alvarez and Councilmember Faulconer. I'm hoping they're both still on the council, to come up with that list of things that the last decade has neglected. To come up with the list of things that need to happen. We're going to get the best minds together and come up with a financing plan and a timeline. And then we're going to actually get it done, because we've seen our city find a lot of money for a lot of things over the last 10 years, just not neighborhoods.
All right, and Kevin Faulconer.
Yeah, you're going to have a mayor to me that's committed to road repair and road work. We've worked too hard to turn back, and as I mentioned before, Bob Filner stopped that road work this year. I don't care what neighborhood you live in. Our roads need help, and they need help now. You have to have a mayor that understands that is not just going to talk about it, but is going to have the political will to get it done when there's competing interests. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past, which is why I feel so strongly about continuing the reforms to give us those dollars to reinvest those back into our neighborhoods.
All right, and David Alvarez, your plan and why you believe you're best suited to get the job done in 30 seconds.
Right. I'm going to save my colleague here, Mr. Fletcher, 6 months. We actually have the data already. We have it. We've had it for a long time. And what we haven't done is we haven't invested in that way that we need to. We've got data and we've got maps. Anybody can go and see them on our city's website, where you can see which roads are red, meaning they're the worst, which ones are blue, meaning they're in best shape. And so we know what they are. We know what we need to do. We actually had to spend money. And so we've got to dedicate the resources that we have as a city to our roads. It's very simple.
All right. And Mike Aguirre, you have 30 seconds to rebuttal your opponent's answer.
Data from that 2011 survey reveals that currently only 35% of the city streets can profess a good condition, 40% are fair, and 25% are poor. And the reason for that is in 2007, we only paid $18 million of the $160 million for roads, but we put $162 million in for the pension. My buddy. In 2011, we paid $26 million for roads. We paid $229 for pension. The reason the pension is so important is because the actual pension payment's only $50 million. We're paying five.
All right.
This is getting to be.
Virginia.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being so succinct. Next, the candidates are going to be asking each other questions.
Stay with us for the debate on more San Diego issues like development and medical marijuana.
Welcome back to the KPBS 10 News and SDSU School of Public Affairs mayoral debate for this special election. And we're going to turn the tables right now. Each candidate will have a chance to ask any other candidate on the stage a question. Gentlemen, you will have 30 seconds, up to 30 seconds to ask your question and up to 30 seconds to answer. Nathan Fletcher, we're going to begin with you. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, Kevin, my question's for you. Last week we had a public safety debate, and we talked about how the number of officers has gone down. In fact, over the last 2 years, 37,000 times response times have been late for 911. You've been in City Hall for about a decade, and they've found a lot of money for a lot of things. Looking back, do you wish there had been more attention to making sure our residents are safe? Because the reality is they're less safe today than they were 7 years ago.
You know, Nathan, I'm not quite sure if you understand what we've been doing for the last 7 years at City Hall. And while you were up in Sacramento doing whatever it is you were doing, we were getting our city out of one of the biggest morasses of financial problems that we'd ever have. And we were working every single day to get us out of that changes so we can get to the point, Nathan, where we're able to start investing some of those dollars into our neighborhoods, into our police department, which is why one of the first things that I've come out with is our police officer recruitment and retention plan. We got to that because we made tough decisions, Nathan. I stood up and made those tough decisions, and as mayor,
And
you have
that
to be
is
able to make
time.
those tough decisions.
But the good news, and that is time. But the good news is now, this time, Kevin Faulconer, I know you weren't finished. You have 30 seconds to ask a question of someone else.
Yeah. Very good. I actually have a question for Nathan. So, Nathan, when you switched parties the first time, you said you weren't going to change your ideals or principles. Sure. And yet, as we've come out and you switched parties again, one of the strongest things that I feel strongly about that I have never wavered on is pension reform. Sure. And now you've changed your mind on pension reform. How can voters trust you to stand up for not only this, but other issues? Right. You don't change your mind if things are politically convenient.
Voters can trust, Kevin, and they know that I'm going to always do what I believe is right for the city of San Diego. And they can trust that I'm going to look out for them. And so the answer that you just gave said that you didn't have the money, but the reality is you found tens of millions of dollars for a tourism marketing district. You found hundreds of millions of dollars for a convention center. You found lots of money for downtown projects. It wasn't that you didn't have the money over the course of the last decade. It's that your priorities were wrong. And my priority, regardless of party, is always going to be doing the right thing for the residents of this city. And that means public safety comes first, then neighborhoods, then jobs. And I'm proud of my track record of actually getting things done, and I'll continue that as mayor.
I have to step in. I have to step in. David Alvarez, it's your turn to ask a question. You have 30 seconds.
Finding a little change. Well, my question is for Nathan, which Nathan and I spent some time talking before I got into this race about the election in the future San Diego, and I'm really actually curious. There's 3 individuals that supported you in the past that I have a lot of questions about as the democratically endorsed candidate, and Democrats want to know. You had your political mentor, Pete Wilson. You had Mitt Romney give money to your campaign, and Karl Rove throw you a fundraiser. As a Democrat and the democratically endorsed candidate, I want to know which one of those 3 do you still admire and why?
You know, David, this is your typical partisan politics. I want to make a real clear statement that I'll take support from anyone out there. I'm not going to base it on what party you're in. I'm not going to base it on who you supported in the past. I'm going to be willing to take the support of anyone out there. And, David, I would tell you to look to those leaders of the Democratic Party like Congressman Juan Vargas, Congressman Scott Peters, Senator Marty Block, Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, the governor of the state, the speaker of the assembly, who know what my values are, they know what my priorities are, and they're supporting me because I believe I'll be the best candidate. And, David, I'll let anyone support me, and I'll bring anyone.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I have to interrupt. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Let's go to Mike Aguirre. You have 30 seconds to ask a question.
I'm so jealous. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I don't have that kind of support. Now, look. What did I do wrong? Okay.
You can join. Mike,
First of all, I'll keep going with you. Yeah. No, now listen, here's the thing. These 3 young men are fabulous people. They are. And I think any one of them would make a great mayor. I have a question for Kevin, but it's a friendly question because the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce has said that the structural deficit is with us and remains. Mayor Sanders said that the structural deficit was over. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you answer that question?
You ran out of time already.
Yeah. God, I can't even get my questions asked.
I do like the kindler, gentler Mike Aguirre, by the way. And I'm happy to. Mike, the structural deficit is there, and it's real. And when we talk about structural deficit, it's a fancy word for saying what hasn't the city been doing? We're $900 million behind. because of some of those poor decisions before, with our pension deficit that you and I know so long about, because the city wasn't making tough choices, because the city was granting benefits that it could not afford, and so we didn't have the dollars to put into our neighborhood. So yes, as mayor, I understand that, and I understand that better than anybody who's on this stage. You have to have the political will to invest those dollars back into our neighborhoods and not make the mistake of trying to grant them the benefits to our employee unions.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, gentlemen, medical marijuana is a hot topic for San Diegans, and this question comes from Jeffrey Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. My question is, what is your plans for the future regarding medical marijuana ordinance in San Diego?
And Kevin Faulconer, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, thank you. We spent a lot of work on a medical marijuana ordinance, and I did myself as well, with the goal that we needed safe access, to provide access to those people that need that help, but also with a clear vision and goal that we were going to protect our neighborhoods and protect our families. So we did not have a dispensary on every single corner, which is what was happening in some neighborhoods of the city of San Diego. So I've been very clear about that we need to, and we came together, and unfortunately, folks opposed that when the council did a lot of work on that. So I'm going to hold my ground and ensure that we provide that access, but I'm going to be equally as strong that says we are not going to pass an ordinance that allows the proliferation of those dispensaries in our neighborhood zones.
All right. David Alvarez, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Right. And I oppose that ordinance, and exactly for the reason that my colleague just mentioned. Neighborhoods, particular neighborhoods in the city, were being concentration of these dispensaries. And there's people throughout this entire city that use this medicine, and they should have access to it. And there's also neighborhoods that have been dumped on with like liquor stores and other bad uses in the city that should not be the dumping ground for these types of uses. We need to make sure that there's access across the city and that they're not all concentrated within the one area or one particular community. We got to make sure we have an ordinance. In January, we'll be voting on that.
Mike Aguirre, 30 seconds on a medical marijuana ordinance.
I hope everyone has a chance to see the documentary Ride with Larry, because you really can see that there is a legitimate need for people that have these very near-death types of diseases. I, as a former federal prosecutor and the former chief law enforcement officer for the city, will work with the prosecutors to make sure that we get them on board in something that they can live with. But we need to do it expeditiously. We need to remember people are suffering. This is a legitimate issue, but we cannot allow people to take advantage of it.
And that is him. Thank you. And Nathan Fletcher, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I support compassionate use. I support safe access, and I think consistent with the will of the voters, we've got to figure out a way to do that. It does have to be one that protects our neighborhoods and gives our law enforcement certainty, so they know what the laws are and they know what the rules are and they can enforce them. It's another example of just one of those basic things that cities ought to be doing that hasn't been getting done, and frankly hasn't gotten done for quite a while. And if I'm mayor, we'll build that coalition. We'll bring law enforcement, neighborhoods, and folks who care about compassionate access. We'll figure out a solution and we'll get it done.
And that is time. Kevin Faulconer, back to you for a 30-second response to rebuttals.
I think my answer was direct enough.
That's it. All right, saving us some time here. All right, let's get to our next question. Some have said the Kearny Mesa Sun Road project was the start of Bob Filner's ultimate downfall. Some have criticized the City Council for accommodating the developers of that project. As mayor, how will you make sure development continues without compromising the city's interests? And David Alvarez, that question starts with you. You have 1 minute.
Well, you got to start by making sure that our plan updates, which are our guiding documents in every one of our neighborhoods, get adopted. And we're down a path. We're actually moving forward on that. We got to continue down that path. We got to actually reconstitute a planning department in the city of San Diego, which makes sure that we have that guiding document. That was eliminated over the last several years. That was bad policy. I will make sure that that happens under my administration, that we have a strong planning department so that communities can have an opportunity to voice their concerns, to share their thoughts on what their neighborhood should look like, and they can have an actual say so that it's not controlled just by developers, as has been the history of the city.
Mike Aguirre, 30 seconds.
Yes, we need to remove the Development Services Department. That went to 15 immediately. Okay, or 30. Okay, thank you. Oh, well, no wonder. Okay, so yeah, we need to organize our Development Services Department and remove it from politics. We had a schizophrenic personality when it came to Sun Road. When Jerry Sanders took money from the developer and then used the building department as a sword to shield the developer from the rules of the Department of Transportation because of the unsafe height that they were building to, that was sort of passed over. And that's a real problem, because what we have seen...
Thank you. Making sure development continues without compromising the city's interest. Nathan Fletcher, 30 seconds.
Well, you need a mayor who's going to always stand up for what they believe is right and what they believe is right for the city. And I've done that. I've always been willing to stand up to tough interests. When I worked on a tax reform measure with Governor Jerry Brown, we stood up to out-of-state companies and to the tobacco industry to do the right thing for Californians. I'll always be someone who's willing to stand up to partisan interest or special interest, and we'll have the real thought of what's right for our city and what's best for them as my guiding principle moving us forward.
And Kevin Faulconer, 30 seconds.
Yeah, the actions of Bob Filner in that instance were wrong. There's no place in that for the city of San Diego. You have to make sure that we have clear rules of the road, and the rules are followed equally for everyone, whether you're doing a large project or you're doing a small home addition. There's no room for that type of pay-to-play attitude that we saw under the Filner administration. I will not allow that when I'm mayor of the city of San Diego. We are going to move forward and treat everyone fairly, and as I also mentioned before, clear and concise rules of the road that everyone will understand. The city of San Diego is open for business.
That's time. And David Alvarez, 30 seconds to make one response to that.
Anyone who understands the history of San Diego has noticed that the pay-to-play has been there for a long, long time, unfortunately. What I will make sure is that those plan updates move forward and that catalytic projects that will spur positive growth and development in our communities, move forward. The council joined me unanimously last week in pushing forward Brownfield, a $1 billion project that will get jobs here today, as soon as next year, and also a commercial on 22nd Street, a corridor that's been abandoned. We're actually going to have housing and business opportunities. Those are the projects we need in our city.
Thank you.
Well, San Diego has the third largest homeless population in the country, according to a 2012 study. And Rashida Cabrales has a question about this.
As mayor, what permanent solution can you propose for the homeless population in San Diego, and how can we fund it?
And this goes to Mike Aguirre. You have 30 seconds.
Yes, and I want to congratulate KPBS on reporting on the fact that we have the third highest, more than Chicago, more than San Francisco, more than Houston. 10,000 people that are homeless in San Diego. The housing problem cannot be separated from Wall Street. It's a super, super complex issue. But the bottom line is this. When I'm mayor, the city of San Diego will recognize that it is the source of housing of last resort. We are not going to allow da-da-da-da-da.
Nathan Fletcher, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think in the city, when we talk about this, we got to take a more holistic approach, which means we don't just talk about where to house people. We talk about how to help rebuild their lives. Because cities are more than a collection of structures. They're people. And I've been out talking to homeless. I've been out doing the surveys. And a lot of folks are first and last paycheck away from being in an apartment. Well, let's help them get back on their feet. We should never tolerate homeless children. We've got to figure out a way to get them out. And the veterans that I served with that came back and struggled, they deserve for their service that we're willing to do it, and we're going to tackle every person.
That is
every
time.
problem.
Kevin Faulconer, 30 seconds.
Everyone deserves a place to live and a roof over their head. Our families, particularly our children. This is an issue I've spent a lot of time on, realizing it's not just about providing an emergency bed. It's providing all of the services that we need to help somebody transition out of homelessness. That's why we spent a lot of time on our Connections Housing, a remarkable facility where we're providing transitional beds, counseling, a variety of services to help men and women get back on their feet to not be homeless. I feel very strongly that the city of San Diego has an obligation to help, and I'm going to continue to do that as mayor.
Now, a permanent solution to San Diego's homeless population. 30 seconds, David Alvarez.
I think if I'm mayor, I'll probably be the first mayor who was ever homeless, actually, in his past. I spent some time my senior year in high school without a place to live because my home was bought out. So I know what it feels like not to have a place to live, to have to live with friends or out of your car, and unfortunately sometimes out of the street. And so I want to make sure that projects like the one at Connections Housing is the way forward. We have to have the wraparound services to give people the skills, whether it's to take care of them because of their illnesses, to make sure they have a high school diploma or a GED, and give them some skills to actually get a job so they can get their own roof over their head.
It's time. Thank you very much. Next question. Just about all of you have talked about some similar priorities, from investing in neighborhoods to boosting public safety. What is the one biggest difference that sets you apart from the other candidates here? This question goes to Nathan Fletcher. You have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference that sets me apart is my jobs plan. We have laid out a specific plan. You can view it at nathanfletcher.com. Download a copy of it and view it. But it really talks about embracing the innovative economies with a list of specific goals. But then we talk about our manufacturing plan. As I mentioned earlier, 500,000 manufacturing jobs have come back. We want those jobs here. We want them in San Diego. Those are good jobs with good wages. You can buy a home and put your kids in college. And then we want to take those products we manufacture and we want to sell them to the 90% of the world that lives outside of America. Because I haven't given up on the American worker. I know that they're strong and they're capable. And if we do that, we're going to build good, solid, middle-class jobs. We're going to look towards the future with our innovative economies. And I put a goal in there to hold me accountable. 130,000 jobs by 2020. We were the first one to put that forward, and I think it's really the defining characteristic of what I'll do along with investing in our neighborhoods as your mayor.
Kevin Faulconer, 30 seconds.
You can trust me to continue the job that we've started on reforming this city. I'm not going to change my views depending upon which way the political winds blow. I'm going to stand up for San Diegans in our neighborhoods, even though sometimes those decisions might be politically inconvenient, because I've seen how tough it was to turn our city around. I'm not going to allow us to go backward. All of us have come too far. And so I'm going to ensure we're spending our dollars and making it a priority. We're not going to treat every single employee group the same. We talked about police officers last time. I will not support Me Too provision, so-called, where one group gets different.
That is time. David Alvarez, the biggest difference between you and the other candidates, 30 seconds.
The biggest difference is my experience as a native San Diegan, as a champion for neighborhoods all my life before I was elected, and as a council member. I'm the only one who has a proven record of making sure that our neighborhoods are taken care of and they're at the top of the priority. To make sure we have investments in the neighborhoods, not only with what the city funds that we have, but also with the funds that are available through state and federal agencies to ensure that we have investment and that we have public-private partnerships so that we can create jobs. That's what I've pushed for before I was elected as council member, and that's what I'll do as mayor.
That is time. Mike Aguirre, 30 seconds.
I'm the only candidate that's actually served in a citywide office during the most critical period in the history of the city. As the city attorney, I stood up for the people of San Diego, and I put your interests ahead of mine. I didn't play the game. I didn't take a pension. I did what was right every single day. I always asked myself the one question, and that was, what is in the long-term best interest of the people of San Diego? I united people like they had never been united before. Unfortunately, it was against me.
And unfortunately, you've run out of time, too.
I'm done.
Nathan Fletcher, 30 seconds to respond.
You know, I think my experience also sets me apart. I led Marines in combat, serving overseas in some of the difficult and most stressful environments you can imagine. I demonstrated in the state legislature that you can actually, despite dysfunction and gridlock, bring folks together and get things done, like Chelsea's Law. We did health care. We helped people who were struggling to keep their homes. I showed, and now in the private sector, working at Qualcomm, that I can learn how to lead large organizations and how to grow a business. And I'm ready to put all of that experience to work moving our city forward.
Time. All right. Our next question was submitted by Hugh Boyle through the KPBS Public Insight Network. Question is, he wants to know where you stand on using taxpayer money to fund a new Charger stadium. Kevin Faulconer, that question goes to you. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, Charger Stadium's been in the news a lot lately. Strong supporter of moving forward on a convention center because I said we're a big city. We can do both. I'm less concerned about a location of a new Charger stadium, but I'm most concerned that any potential plan has to protect taxpayers. And as somebody who spent his time at city government, not only as the council, but chairman of the city's audit committee, I know firsthand that any proposal that comes forward, the number 1, 2, and 3 priority is going to be, does it make sense for taxpayers? That's how I will approach this.
That is time. Let's go to David Alvarez, 30 seconds.
The only way to protect taxpayers is to not to use taxpayer money to pay for a Charger stadium. That's the only way, and that's my position. We cannot use subsidies from our city when that money is supposed to be going into our neighborhoods. And what we've seen in the history of the city is that we're paying about $12 million for Petco Park out of general fund money that could pay for our libraries and our parks and our police, $3 million for the expansion of Convention Center, the current one, another $2 million for the previous one. You keep adding on to that, we're going to run out of money to actually give to our neighborhoods. And so that's my position. It's very clear.
And that's time. Mike Aguirre, using taxpayer money to build a new Charger stadium. 30 seconds.
Sundays are family days when the Chargers play, and they're important to thousands and thousands of San Diegans. I have not always been completely supportive of the Chargers' plans, But I do support the proposal that Mr. Fabiani has made about submitting both the convention center and the Chargers to a public vote. I think it's a very courageous act on the part of the Chargers. Jack Murphy Stadium was a mixed-use facility. The case has not been completely made for the convention center, so that they have to have only the... You got the idea.
Yeah, thank you. Nathan Fletcher, 30 seconds.
Yeah, if you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have a sidewalk or a street light, you don't understand how every conversation's about a stadium. I think there's a way to work it out. As a country, we put a man on the moon. I think we can do it, and I think we can do it in a way, if I'm mayor, that doesn't use city general fund dollars. But my highest priority, and the first thing I'm going to do, is what the residents expect. Safe communities, smooth streets, and good jobs. And it's time that we get our priorities focused on those things.
Okay, we are now at the end of the question phase. We're going to go to closing statements, and based on random draw, Kevin Faulconer, we're going to begin with you. We have 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be back. Go Aztecs. If the last year has taught us anything, it's that leadership matters. Principles matter. I feel strongly about the great direction that the city can take. If we elect a mayor, it's going to hold true to his principles and values and not change depending upon which way the political winds may blow. I'm very proud of what we've done as a city to help turn us around financially. I'm proud of the work that I've done with our former mayor, Jerry Sanders, on pension reform that will save this city $8 billion. I'm proud of the work I did on the Mission Bay Park Initiative that reinvests those dollars into one of our most treasured assets. You could count on me to continue to do the work, to put our neighborhoods, to reinvest these dollars on the things that matter most of us as San Diegans, our streets, our parks, our libraries. You do that, however, if you have the will that says, I'm going to make that a priority and stand up to do what's right. I'm a proud San Diegan. I am a proud Aztec. I cannot wait to be your next mayor.
And that is time. Nathan Fletcher, your closing statement, 1 minute.
Yeah, if you look at what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now, it's disheartening. It's frustrating. People are retrenched to their corners. There's no focus on solutions. I've always been a leader that's worked hard to bring people together to get things done. I demonstrated that in my time in the Assembly. I demonstrated leadership in the Marine Corps. And even over the course of this campaign, I've shown that we can bring people together. When we rolled out our jobs plan, it was something that rarely is seen. Standing there, we had biotech executives who were supporting me. We had small business owners representing the California Small Business Association who were supporting me. And we had leaders from our labor community. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And we're not going to rebuild our neighborhoods. We're not going to make our communities safe. We're not going to create those good jobs if we don't have a mayor who can bring all of those parties together, who can focus on solutions, who can make sure they have the priorities right, and who can always take a stand for what's in the best interest of the citizens of San Diego. And as your mayor, I will always do that. Thank you.
Mike Aguirre, 1 minute.
I love San Diego. I love its people, its diversity. My grandfather came here almost 100 years ago. My mom and dad met at the Golden Hill Rec Center. They raised 3 boys. I buried my brother here in San Diego. And I've raised my 2 children. We have had unlimited opportunities, Princeton, Harvard, every conceivable financial reward that is possible only because of what San Diego has given to my family. I have tried to serve the people of San Diego with integrity and purpose and looking at their long-term best interests. I want to be the 36th mayor of San Diego. I'm a little behind in the polls right now, but I'm looking forward to these debates because if we can come with an open mind, I think that I can convince this people of San Diego to entrust me with this awesome responsibility. Thank you very much.
And our final closing statement from David Alvarez, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Again, an honor to be here. It's an honor to serve this city as council member. I've had the privilege of working along my colleagues to put forward bipartisan solutions on many of our problems. We got to continue to do that in the city. However, I am the only one who's endorsed by the Democratic Party. And that makes a difference because our party stands for things that are important to everyone in our society. I want to make sure that we actually invest in our neighborhoods. Right now, 85% of neighborhoods throughout this entire city do not have a place to take their family, a park to take their family to enjoy a Sunday afternoon. We have not invested in the ways that we need to in the city, and I'm making sure every day on my work on the council that we focus on that. And that's what I want to do as your mayor. I want to lead, I want leadership for all of us, not just for select few who have controlled this city's agenda It's time that we retake our neighborhoods, we rebuild our neighborhoods, and we create a San Diego that's fair for all of us. Thank you very much.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this debate today. This concludes our mayoral debate. We'd like to thank mayoral candidate San Diego City Councilman David Alvarez, former San Diego City Attorney Mike Aguirre, former State Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher, and San Diego City Councilman Kevin Faulconer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. David?
Time to applaud if you want.